the last one. This isn't necessarily the best.
Which one is
this? This isn't the most relevant, but it's still pretty relevant.
Which one is this?
This is when she was asked, and I'm just trying to make sure I got the piece of paper. Okay, here it is.
Oh, the gun one.
Yes. So Senator Chris Murphy from Connecticut, obviously rather sensitive to the idea of guns being in schools. The massacre at Newtown, Connecticut, obviously in the forefront of his mind. So he asked what one would imagine would be a fairly straightforward question for the Education Secretary nominee. Here it is.
One final question. Do you think that guns have any place in or around schools?
Pause it. Do you think that guns have any place in or around schools? This is a slam dunk, folks. I mean, unless you're running for the presidency of the NRA, or to be fair, the vice presidency of the NRA, the secretary of the NRA. This should be a slam dunk for anyone who cares about children. But let's see how Betsy DeVos does.
I think that's best left to locales and states to decide. If the underlying question is,
you can't say definitively today that guns shouldn't be in schools.
Well, I will refer back to Senator Enzi and the school that he was talking about in Wapiti, Wyoming. I think probably there, I would imagine that there's probably a gun in the school to protect from potential Grizzlies.
If President Trump moves forward with his plan to ban gun-free school zones, will you support that proposal?
I will support what the president-elect does, but Senator, if the question is around gun violence and the results of that, please know that my heart bleeds and is broken for those families that have lost any individual due to gun violence.
I look forward to working with you, but I also look forward to you coming to Connecticut and talking about the role of guns in schools.
Well, if you have any wild boars or perhaps a frothing raccoon here, if you see a raccoon in the day, you know, you may need to have a couple of weapons.
Some of them have rabies. And also, Senator, I would add that if Connecticut was not a state of cucks and that there was what I would call a Sylvester Stallone scenario, that tragedy might have been avoided.
So this is from Mike.com. DeVos was referring to an anecdote Wyoming Senator Mike Enzi told her in a private meeting earlier in the day about schools with wildlife fences. Oh my God. According to a 2005 Denver Post article, several schools in the vicinity of Cody, Wyoming, which has a rebounding bear population. I'm sure that'll end after we privatize all the land around there and get rid of the restrictions on shooting and hunting, relied on such fences to keep wildlife from wandering onto school grounds. But neither the Post nor the article in Billings Gazette about the fences made any mention of firearms playing a role in the school's anti-bear strategies. Audra Morrow, a teacher at Wyoming's Valley Elementary School in Cody from 2004 to 2006, explained to Mike that no guns were necessary to ward off ursids, and that the fence and bear spray were absolutely sufficient measures on their own. No firearms in our schools, Morrow wrote. We do have bear spray, but that never had a problem would require using it. Now, let's just assume that Mike Enzi did say, like, we've got to have guns in our one school in Wyoming to fight bears. And Betsy DeVos was like, oh, I'm going to absorb that new information. Maybe she would say, you know, to be honest with you, Senator Murphy, prior to a week ago, I would have said absolutely 100% we should make it absolutely clear-cut that you cannot have weapons in schools. But Senator Enzi tells me we may have to have a provision to provide extraordinary circumstances in case of bear attacks at a school.
Actually, this is how it happened. Betsy, Mike Enzi told me a great fucking point about this. You're going to get that pussy Murphy is going to ask you about the guns because Newtown, this is all he can talk about. He's got his panties in a bunch. And you say, bad attacks. You need the fucking guns for the fucking bad attack. Joey No Sock said it. He signed off on Mike Enzi. Betsy, to the moon.
But wait a second. Why stop with bear attacks? If you're in Florida, like, have you seen the
It
images
could be
of
a
this
fucking
huge-
alligator. Can fucking drag the kid out of the school while they're
But
doing gay conversion therapy.
Also,
We should hang the little homos over a Shark Tank and say, you stop wanting to date men or you become fucking straight or you go into Shark Tank. This is what could
but
happen.
honestly, I
It's
mean,
bold
look.
innovation.
New Mexico, Colorado, Arizona. I mean, you could have snakes.
There's a lot of potential
There could be
grizzlies.
snakes.
Could be a fucking rattlesnake.
What about? I gotta imagine in Dakota, like wolverines,
Wolves,
right?
yeah.
Like, I mean, a wolverine. Do you know how vicious those things are? No, Wolverine is
Wolverines are
not
real.
imaginary. Are you kidding?
There's wolves too.
They're not imaginary when they're ripping your
Those-
fucking throat off and all of a
Mountain
sudden your
lions?
teacher doesn't have an AK-47 to
Wolverines.
protect the children.
Wolverines are vicious.
It'd be
vicious.
mountain lions in North Dakota.
Mountain lions too. My God.
That's why I carry heat.
To the moon, Betsy. To the moon.
Speaking, I mean, look, I know it's rare. Hold on one second. But God forbid there is some type of alien invasion and they turn out not to be friendly. You're going to just leave the kids there with zero protection?
Senator, there is a Mars attacks scenario. Not to mention Red Dawn.
Right. Hey, it's Sam Seder. Why don't you subscribe to this channel? You can do so right over here. Over. Subscribe.